Meeting of the Board of Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Dean Hazelworth.
Present.
Chair Butch Schleier.
Present.
Commissioner Dustin Rock.
Present.
Okay, you have a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. Order of business tonight. We are going to move the contract extension for hauling services to number 10 and move the 2019 audit to number 11. And we will have 2 executive sessions. Prior minutes. Did you guys see the prior minutes?
Let's see which ones those were.
Yeah.
It was from last week, I believe.
It was.
Oh, yes, yep.
I had no
Okay.
questions.
Okay, minutes stand as submitted. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business. Donna?
Commissioners, good evening. Establish permanent status on the ballot, then they get a ballot for every election that they qualify for. And we have 186 of those that have been requested. And then the advance mail ballot request, we have 3,205. So we have a total, as of this morning, 3,405 ballots that have been requested for the upcoming November 3rd general election. Thank you.
Is Jason here?
Not yet, I don't think.
Jason's not here yet? Okay. How about the county attorney? Is he here?
Yep, Tom's
okay.
there.
The transition planning for county attorney's office. Tom?
Good evening. Tom Drees, Ellis County Attorney. I have with me Robert Anderson, Jr.
Robert?
Robert has won the primary for Ellis County Attorney and has no one on the other side for the general election, so he'll be my successor in office. So I'm hiring him in to the County Attorney's office as a special contractor, just an independent contractor, to work in the County Attorney's office starting October 1st. So he'll be working there, and I'm also hiring in a legal assistant, Jessica Heilman, to work there. She'll start hopefully this week, and they'll work through the transition, which is January 11th, is when I will no longer be county attorney after 24 years. So Robert's going to come in and start learning the office and learning this side of the fence, and he'll do a great job with that. But that way, we can hopefully have a very smooth transition for law enforcement and for everyone in the court system for the county attorney's office to transition. I have the money in my budget. I don't need any additional funding from the commissioners. That's there in my budget to utilize for that purpose. So that's what I'm planning to do.
Good job. Welcome, Robert.
Work out if it's in budget. One question, Robert, are you, I know you have done some defense work, so you'll just step completely away from the defense work?
I'm in the process of winding down my office currently.
Perfect.
You have to step over to the mic and you can take your
Oh,
mask.
sorry.
That way, I guess for the record's sake as well, yeah, I'm in the process of winding down my office currently. I probably have well over half of my cases closed out already. And so since there are things still on the calendar, I'm still having court over the next couple of weeks, basically a week and a half before October 1. I'll really make a strong push to get out of whatever remaining cases I have. So, that's my understanding through Judge Brown. So I've been doing orders, transferring cases to her, creating memos for each file, that sort of thing. And so her and I are on the same page, getting those cases transferred over. That's the bulk of my caseload at the moment. I stopped taking other appointments and things several months ago in preparation for this.
That's great.
Good deal, welcome.
Yeah, a lot of seat changing in there.
Yes.
So, perfect.
Yeah, give me a lot of transition after 20-some years.
Awesome.
So with the sheriff and the county attorney
Mm-hmm.
and John Tremblay at Community Corrections will be
Yeah.
retiring, so there's going to be a lot of changeover.
Yep.
So, also, Judge Brown is moving heaven and earth with the Supreme Court to try to get permission to get a couple of juries tried here yet this year. With COVID, that's going to be quite the endeavor.
Right.
So the additional help will be very welcome in the office as we transition.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thanks for the update, guys.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, take care. Okay, Jason. We'll have the China virus update with Jason.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services. So tonight, we did have 20 new cases over the weekend. That brings our active cases actually down, a decrease from Friday, in that our recoveries outpaced our new cases, which is good. 196 active cases in Ellis County. 6 active hospitalizations. We have seen an increase in hospitalizations over the last week, mostly associated with a cluster that was identified in a long-term care facility. So we have seen that decrease from 9 on Friday down to 6. Recovered cases brings us to 495. Positive test results, 681. People question why the difference between the total and the positive test. That does bring into account the 13 probable cases that were not tested but had symptomology, close contact, all that kind of stuff. Total test, 5,400. Percent of positive overall is 12.7. 7-day average is 14.7. Total deaths are 3. We did add two additional deaths on Friday, unfortunately. Probable cases 13 and a total of 694. Now, as we look graphically, what we've seen, our percent of positive, thankfully, has decreased. Honestly, we talked last time, the medical community has really pushed hard to bring additional testing on board. Fort Hays State's doing a bunch of testing, and so that has helped to decrease our percent of positive. What you see in the blue is our 2-week percent of positive, and then the orange, obviously, is our 7-day average. The concerning thing on the percent of positive that we can see over the course of the pandemic is that early on we saw more gradual upslopes and more gradual downslopes. Here we saw a pretty fast acceleration pace. Hopefully this will continue on a downward trend. That really comes into people making good choices like we've talked before, following those health practices, things like that. We want to keep that percent of positive low, as that is somewhat of an indicator of what's going on in your community. Obviously it takes into account testing and overall cases. 7-day case growth, we've also seen a fairly precipitous decline here. Starting our peak, and this is the 7-day total cases. So we're falling on the good side of that line. Now, the good thing about being on the downslope is, like we've talked before, this is kind of indicative of decisions that were made a week, 2 weeks ago, things like that. So we did have the holiday weekend in there that was somewhat concerning. We hope to continue this this trend down and not see a return. The numbers look better than they have, at least in a couple of weeks. We do see some improvements. Mostly a testament to, like I said, the medical community really being diligent in getting that testing done and making sure that that we have adequate access to testing, and then people making good choices with not gathering in groups, and taking those best practices into account. On the health department side, continuing the contact tracing, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I don't see that changing or eliminating at any point. The health department staff is working diligently to make sure that people get notified. You guys have any questions for me tonight?
I got a quick question for you. You looked at a grant to get additional staffing at the health department. Have you heard anything about the grant status yet?
Yeah, we actually were denied for the first, so I applied for 2 different grants. We were denied for the first grant. I'm not exactly sure where the money went, but it didn't come here. And then the second grant is still pending. I do believe that we will get, at least from what they've told us, we will get some portion of that funding. I don't know the full extent of what it will be.
Okay, and you want to use that money to hire another nurse, is that correct?
I would like to. JD and I have had a conversation this week about looking at some initial proposals for that. So JD and I are working towards getting that taken care of. And I'll be honest, I did not get my part of that done in time to get it on this agenda. So we'll have it before you on the next agenda, regardless of grant funding.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep, keep up the good work, Jason. I've been following your updates on the county side, so you've been doing good on it. Thank you very much.
I had 2 questions for you, Jason. The first one is, what do you call a recovery? I know I've heard of a lot of asymptomatic cases. Is it a certain time frame then if we've tested them and they are asymptomatic throughout, or how do you guys decide that they're now cured of COVID-19?
Well, as with COVID, there's about 7 different answers to that question.
Okay.
So it depends on the individual case, but the vast majority of people are 10 days post onset of symptoms or 10 days post test. The reason for the 10-day time frame is that early studies and most of the studies we've found with COVID-19 is people are no longer contagious after that 10-day time period, as long as they remain asymptomatic. So it's 10 days post test or 10 days post onset of symptoms. Where a lot of people get confused is if you have symptoms 7 days ago, decide to go in and test 3 or 4 days to get your test back, you could be out of isolation as long as you're asymptomatic. You could be out of isolation by the time that your case actually reaches us.
Oh, okay.
10 days post test or post onset of symptoms, 72 hours post fever, whichever is longer, is the definition that we use for that, unless you are in an intensive care type of setting. And then they show that those patients actually shed virus slower. So a lot of times we'll extend the duration of their quarantine or isolation, depending on the case severity, but up to around 20, 21 days, somewhere around in there.
Okay. The other question is about KDHE and how they're keeping up with our numbers comparative to theirs. I had a few people question why they were different. I told them that last meeting you had said there's issues where you're trying to work with them to get the data better or correct, but that they're wondering why sometimes they're ahead of you, sometimes they're behind you.
Sure. As are numbers. It's there's depending on the reporting time frame, depending on when the tests get to our office, depending on when they pull their data. The numbers we post are off of an export that we use out of our epidemiological system. So that export is what we use to determine cases per day and the number of tests per day. The KDHE, they do a similar setup, but I don't know. Their time frames might be different than ours, and then a lot of times we'll find cases that are credited to different days because there is a time frame gap with that testing. So all of our healthcare providers, HaysMed, really all the clinics, we're still getting test results back in 24 hours, 48 hours max. Some of the asymptomatic and private lab testing, especially associated with CRL, some of those test results might not come back in 5, 7. We might get a large mass dump. The weekend that we got 100 and some cases those cases were over the last 10 days prior to that day, but that case information. So KDHE's gotten a lot better with pushing out that information. They've got a new analytics guy that's doing a pretty decent job, but even they have frequent updates, and so we have to go back 10 days to recount cases, and so it's time frames, and we're all figuring it out as we go.
So if we happen to be behind them on the number of caseload, why would that be? I mean, it seems like you would have it before them. Is it just some sort of issue on their side?
So the most of the testing right now is reported to the state first. The labs are reporting directly from internal portal, basically. So they're reporting directly to the state of Kansas. And then there's also cases that are attributed to other counties, that because the resident goes to school here or the resident works here, tested here, but they live somewhere else. So figuring that out and that movement sometimes takes time to for the data to catch up or lag or whatever.
Seeing that the question I got was about 20 cases, and so if that was what today's report was, that's exactly what it was, and the state just had it up before you.
And we'll probably, moving forward, I've tried really diligently to figure out and make sure that our numbers match theirs exactly. And because people get nervous when they're two different numbers. So what I'll tell the community is the numbers that we report are accurate to our office as of 10 o'clock that day. I'll continue to do that. I'm not going to chase the state's numbers for them. We know about any case that is attributed to Ellis County. We know about any case that's in Ellis County. We do the contact tracing, follow-up investigation as timely as we get those results. But chasing the case numbers through KDHE from the last 6.5 months is probably a futile effort, and one that I'm not going to continue to try and do.
Very good. No issues with the medical community right now being overrun?
No, the hospital's busier. They put out a press release. Obviously, they're busier. We saw an increase in just Ellis County cases, where, as has been with the pandemic, if it happens here, it's pretty much happening statewide, and so other areas have seen the same thing. So the hospital's busier, but they do not have a capacity issue according to them.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Thank
Hang
you.
in there. Okay, the appraiser's office update. Lisa.
Lisa Ree, Ellis County Appraiser. I thought I'd take a few moments of your time, Commission, this evening to tell you about a few positive things that have been happening in our office. One of them is I would like to present to you an accomplishment of one of our appraisal staff. Mike Weber has earned his registered mass appraiser designation through the Kansas Department of Revenue Property Valuation Division. Earning the RMA, is what we call it, RMA designation, includes several requirements. A candidate must have at least 200 hours of education, which includes passing written examinations. Some of the mass appraisal specific courses Mike completed are fundamentals of real property appraisal, income approach to valuation, uniform standards of professional appraisal practices, Kansas property tax law, fundamentals of mass appraisal, assessment administration, personal property valuation and assessment, and agricultural use valuation. An RMA candidate must also successfully complete a residential case study and commercial case study, as well as the Division of Property Valuation's eligibility exam. Another requirement is to document at least 6,000 hours of mass appraisal experience. This includes a minimum of 2,000 hours of experience in establishing values of property for ad valorem taxation, with the majority of those hours being related to the real property. Mike was able to document for the 6,000 hour requirement experience in data collection, quality control of other data collectors, land valuation, and setting annual values for real property and personal property. Achieving and maintaining a registered mass appraiser designation is not a quick and easy process. It's taken Mike several years, a few years to get the education requirement, and he's been with the county, I believe, 15 years and was able to document his experience through that way. It also takes requirement on our office, dedication from our office and Mike. Mike had to be dedicated to learn, to take the classes, to get the experience. And then moving forward, any RMA designee must document 120 hours of continuing ed every 4 years. So I am personally, and our office is proud of Mike's accomplishments, and ask that you join me in congratulating Mike Weber on receiving his registered mass appraiser designation.
I'll speak for Mike a little bit here first because I've played a little sports with him back in the day. Pretty good basketball player and softball player too, but I have no issue with thinking that Mike will work every day about as hard as anybody ever would in this county. So excited to see you having some success with this. I'm sure you want paid more now with all your kids, right?
Won't complain on that.
No, thanks, Mike. Thanks for all your hard work. Give him a round of applause.
Yes, Mike, thank you very much for everything you've done. I know it's taken a while to get there, so thank you for your hard work and continued dedication to that department.
Congratulations on the accomplishment, Mike.
Thank you.
Let it go. Another item I thought I would mention, as a commission, you should have received a letter from the Property Valuation Office regarding our office's results of the compliance for tax year 2020. And if you read the letter, it does say that we are in substantial compliance. Substantial compliance is made up of 2 sections. One is the procedural compliance. And despite our challenges last year with timeframes, we were able to meet all of the procedural compliances as required by the state. The other portion of the compliance is the statistical compliance. And I know your letter didn't probably include that, but